James Watson that I tend to lean libertarian myself. I'm a Ron Paul supporter. But this does not imply that I am an anarchist or that I am endorsing the notion that libertarianism is a form of anarchism or something like that. No, what I meant to imply was something more along the lines of what Ed was talking about, that tax equity would mean that everybody pays the same tax rate above a certain standard deduction, you might say, for basic living expenses like housing and food and clothing and transportation and that sort of thing. Whatever that is deemed to be, whether it be $30,000 a year, and then extra amounts for children, or whatever the formula is. But then beyond a certain point, you pay a flat tax. That's equity. Everybody has a taxable income and they pay the same percent on that taxable income. And in fact, they've done surveys about this, and they've asked people, what do you think is a fair tax rate that everybody should pay regardless of their taxable income? And it didn't seem to matter whether you were asking a poor person, a rich person, a middle class person. The cluster of responses was around 25%. Now, I thought that was interesting. That would seem to be what the vast majority would consider a fair tax rate for everybody. Well, what the heck, why not? The only problem is, as James Watson said, that's not enough to pay off the national debt. Maybe we have to raise it to 50% to help make some progress in paying off the national debt. I think a really good idea would be for the government to take all that land it owns and sell it and raise a little money that way. The federal government owns something like 30% of the entire land area of the United States. That's more than 1 million square miles. How did that happen? How did the state suddenly wake up one day and go, what the heck? The federal government owns this land. It doesn't belong to Nevada at all. The federal government owns like 90% of the state of Nevada. How did that happen? I guess the government just came in there and just ripped it off. We often hear the phrase, the people are the government. The government is us. Well, part of my point was that just as we are not allowed to steal, whether it be for paying our medical expenses or buying food, that means the government's not allowed to steal either, doesn't it? It's logical. Just as we are not allowed to counterfeit money, the government should not be allowed to do that either, right? Because we're the government. It should be the same for everybody. But guess what? In 1913, the federal income tax was enacted, allowing the government to steal our money. In 1913, the Federal Reserve Act was passed, allowing the government to counterfeit money. Now, when we sit around the kitchen table and go we got a budget, we got a balance here, how are we going to do this? Well, we can work more, save more, spend less. Why don't we put down, we can rob banks, we can burglarize houses, we can steal from other people. We can buy a printing press and print money in the basement. No, we don't. We're crazy to think like that, but that's the way the government thinks. How many of you have seen the movie IOUSA? Came out maybe 5 years ago or so. The problem is not that the government is not taking enough money from us. This, tax the rich more thing is a smokescreen to hide the real fact that the government is living way beyond its means. And IOUSA pointed out at that point that the unfunded liabilities, the promises made by the federal government, extending out for as long as the baby boomers will be alive, totaled $73 trillion. But that was before the doo-doo hit the fan and the economy went into the tank. Now those unfunded liabilities amount to more than $100 trillion, and one economist has even said it's ultimately going to amount to more than $200 trillion that the federal government has obligated itself to pay out for which they simply don't have the revenues lined up to pay. The only way, as James Watson said, is we're going to either have to default or we're just going to have to run the printing presses and just inflate it away. As James Watson often says, we're doomed.